review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is the author of the book Odyssey, no other than Miss Rachel Vancelette. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Rachel, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Hi, Daniel. Nice to see you today. My name's Rachel Vancelette. I'm the owner of Vancelette Global Art Acquisitions, and I'm a curator, creator, a founder of interexpert.com, which is a hub for creative industry members. And this is a book that I created over a year ago. We had a wonderful exhibition, and this comes out of the work that I do in the creative arts.
How did the collaboration between the two of you come about for this project?
Well, this project was basically it was an exhibition that we did about a year ago with artist Billy Zane, who you may know. He's an actor as well as a strong advocate in the creative arts and a painter. And Diane Detal, who's a French artist who spent most of her time in the south of France growing up, but now lives in New York and has traveled the world. And we were invited by the community of St. John Cap Ferrat to do a beautiful exhibition for the week during Cannes Film Festival. And through that experience, I decided, well, wouldn't it be amazing to have a capsule collection of this experience in the south of France? And so Snap Collective, which is a wonderful book publisher who publishes artist books, approached me, and we decided to do a book about Billy and Diane. And it's called The Curator's Sketchbook because I really wanted to bring an insider's view to creating an exhibition for a week in the south of France, but also just the insider view of how we dealt with community, the idea of like the impact it makes on community and people and visitors that come through an exhibition. And I had some, strong inspiration from writers before me, people like Anthony Bourdain, who wrote a really beautiful book about the insiders of the world of culinary. I really wanted to give some sort of sense to readers what it takes to put an exhibition together. What does it mean? And motivate other people to think about what their dialogue would be to put something together that's creative to impact community and an audience. So.
Miss Rachel Vancelette, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. What does the title Odyssey signify in the context of this work?
Well, Odyssey was a name that I came up with at the beginning in conversation with Diane Detal about, we're all kind of on a general journey of return. So the exhibition was actually kind of this new concept that had happened within the community of St. John Cap Ferrat. It was sponsored and supported by the mayor of the city, and so we really thought that this was an Odyssey return. Billy, who spent many, many years going to the Cannes Film Festival, which was at the same time during May, continues to return to France. And Diane, who was a native born French artist, had never shown in France. And so this was her return. So Odyssey became a really impactful word title for the exhibition. We wanted people to feel like when they came to the exhibition, they would feel like a sense of return to themselves, and they would feel the impact of the paintings that were presented in the exhibition.
How does the book blend the worlds of art, travel, and personal storytelling?
Well, it's really important to note that, the south of France and St. John Cap Ferrat has been, historically a place that really great creatives have spent time there. So when we think about Winston Churchill, there's a beautiful statue dedicated to him because he spent time painting there. When you think about Elizabeth Taylor in her early days, she spent lots of time and had a home that was there. And so when we think about the history of the place, it's such a mecca for creative artists and creatives, people from Hollywood all the way down to creative artists. So I really wanted to make sure that essentially the book looked at both the history of the environment of St. John Cap Ferrat and also honored it. It was an anniversary. It was the 100th anniversary of the city itself when we had the show, and it was in honor of the city. So the mayor, the Prince of Monaco came to town and did some inaugurations of artworks that were around the city. So for us, it was a really important time, not just only for the exhibition, but also integrated this kind of culinary aspect to going to La Paloma Beach, which is very famous. People know it now from TV, but it's been around for a very long time. And a lot of really well known, famous actors have spent time there. And the chef was with us. And we really had, this innate diary of things that were happening around us as people were telling us these stories and how important this place is. And so for me as a curator, I thought it was really important to capture it in a book, and let people really understand kind of the space that it's now today on a 100th anniversary, but also the history. Little did I know that Winston Churchill had spent time there painting. And the beautiful photos of, in speaking of the work that I do, I've also written for Vogue Italia for a number of years, and Elizabeth Taylor was photographed there, and put in Vogue, and in her beautiful, beautiful Afghans, or half, her dresses and her with her dogs. So you find this history. Picasso spent time there. So Matisse. So we think about these artists that are so well known, and why were they brought to this beautiful, place on the water? The impact was very important. And in the book, you'll find pictures of the port. You'll find pictures of the famous Hotel du Cap, which is a very famous hotel that a lot of Hollywood actors still go and reside today. So, and these are places that are, very special, I would say, in terms of how visitors interact with art and creative art. It's a really special place, to just come across a really beautiful exhibition that might impact you. So.
So, Miss Rachel, let's talk about creative process of the book. How do you decide what sketches, writings, or themes to include?
Well, what we did was I have the book here, so if you want to see it, it's right here.
Yes.
And we took some time and we really made a point to like put, action photos that are in it with Diane creating the work in front of the exhibition. But also we took time and we really picked out, particular paintings that were part of the exhibition. And then alongside it, really an understanding of like how that work was created, where it was going. So we took on a lot of different types of interesting pictures of the artwork, but also made sure to include people that were part of the experience. And I think that's a really important thing to do in books like this, because at the end of the day, you're looking at a beautiful tourist book, seeing these beautiful images. But at the same time, I worked very, closely with the designers at Snap Collective. We really wanted to make sure this was a coffee table book. You can see here Billy painting in front of one of the
Hmm.
books. This is a California photo. So we really wanted to make it something that was really a special edition, something that created, some ambiance. You can see here Billy like talking in front of one of the paintings. Um, so there's some candid shots that are, something that you wouldn't see in a normal book. You might just see the glossy kind of figure of the images, but we also have, moments where we're with this is the mayor of St. John Cap Ferrat signing a very big book. That is a city book where all people that do exhibitions and create, organizational ideas there from film to theater, sign this book that reminds the city of who's been there and who's touched it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, indeed, Miss Rachel. Let's talk about the artistic and curatorial vision of Odyssey. What themes or emotions were you hoping to capture through the sketches and curatorial choices?
Well, I think when we got there, we were in a space that was really a 1930 deco space. So what we had to do is go in and actually redo the space. We had to put carpet down. We built walls, because there was mirrors, and it was just quite it's a communal space for the city. So we really wanted to make it a very high end exhibition. So first of all, we wanted to create an environment where someone felt like they might be walking into a New York gallery or a big museum. And so we wanted to create the environment first for that. But in terms of the artwork that was brought and curated from both sides, both artists brought in works that were actually from things they had worked on the previous years, but they also created work on site. So we actually had a performative piece that happened outside the gallery where both artists put canvases down and threw artwork or threw painting on there on the canvases and created the artwork in front of an audience. And then we had it dry in the space and hung it the next day so visitors that miss the performative kind of component of the creation of the art. So we really wanted to give visitors from their first point of view of like how the work was created, but also, when you think about art, it's an emotive process. So art is something that scientists have now come and said that it creates dopamine, it creates a calming effect for people. It actually ignites the idea of love and compassion in people. And so for me as a curator, I hope that something that I did or how I presented it creates a story for them or a memory for them that they can take away, but also at the same time a really sense of calm, creative impact. And through Diane's paintings, she creates these beautiful type works that are, have texture and this emotive quality. And Billy, on the other hand, he's much of a theatrical, performative type painter, and you can feel that in the paintings. So my hope is that people walk away with stories that they may create, and it might spark something new for them to take a creative point down the road for themselves. Art is about risk, and so at the end of the day, both of these artists risk a lot in what they create and how they create it. They both paint on the floor, and that process of creating was really exciting for visitors as well as for myself as a curator to learn about, and I really wanted to capture that in the book as well. So I hope I did. So,
How does Odyssey differ from traditional art book or travel journal?
well, I think it's I gave some narratives in the book. I really wanted to give some quotes, some ideas to people. I can read one or two if you want, but I really wanted to make sure it felt like you were really inside a diary. So when you do pull the book out, traditional catalogs for artists and for you can go to Tashin, you can go to many bookstores that do art books, and a lot of times they're only visually written, in the sense that they're only visual pictures, and there's very little, maybe one essay. And so what I created was a book that when you walk through it, you discover something on every page. So you can read something about perhaps how Billy went outside into the community and he picked materials from local construction workers to create his paintings. He took wood and he made new paintings with the blessing of the community. He asked the mayor for a big panel to paint. That was a guard stop that happens when you go to parts of the city, and he painted it and created a very large scale painting using this canvas. So he was really integrative in the idea of how the city operates. And then Diane, who's somebody who really grew up there, created these paintings that were just luxurious and glowed with light. That was like a lot about the water that you sit outside and see. So when you walk through the book, you'll see a picture of the port, and then you'll see a picture of Diane's work, and you'll see the impact of maybe where she was getting her influence. And so that's the hope in that. So when you say and you ask what's different about it, I think it's just a new position in taking an idea of a diary, which I call a sketchbook, and creating a dialogue throughout every page so that you're not just getting the visual impact, you're getting information behind the scenes. So,
Miss Rachel, can you read one of the paragraph?
oh, yeah, certainly. Let me find one for you. Think beyond the visual. Art is not just a visual experience, it engages all the senses. Consider how sound, lighting, and even scent can enhance the viewer's experience. The found materials in the exhibition Odyssey come from a local construction site, and for instance, the sound of the port outside the gallery became an integral part of the exhibition. Don't hesitate to incorporate the environment into your art curation. In many ways, that might not be immediately obvious. So that's going back and speaking back to the idea of moving these ideas of scent, sound, material. There's another one. Curation is an art of making connections between eras, movements, and ideas. It's the enhancement that turns unrelated pieces into a dialogue or a deeper story for reflection. So, back to your question about what I'd hope for is that in anything you do in curation, you hope that it innate, integrally or inside someone causes a reflection. So that's what I hope for also when people encounter this book.
Very well done, Miss
Mhm.
Rachel. Well done.
Thank you, Daniel.
What will be your short-term and long-term goals in writing?
Well, right now I'm working on a book right now about the intersection between art and fashion, which will cover about 400 collaborations. It's a compendium that I've written for the about like I've worked on it for about 5 years, and it's about my writings from Vogue Italia and my exploration of how artists and fashion designers come together. So that's a project I'm working on now. I hope to continue to put out some books that are about art and healing, the process of grief and how art can help heal and impact. And so that's something that I'm hopeful for in the future for some future books. And then at the same time with Odyssey, we have a few other books coming out with Snap Collective with individual artists. Tatiana Murray has a book. It's a beautiful book at Snap Collective now that's out. And coming down the road, there's a few other new artists, so stay tuned for their publications as well, which I'll have a hand or at least an essay in. So yeah, it's an exciting time. I think writing is a really important part of the journey, and I was really happy with Odyssey to be able to capture something that not everybody was able to come and visit. So now they can take it home with them and keep it in their house. So
Good luck to your goals, Miss Rachel, and looking for more and more artistic books to come. What will be your advice for
thank you.
those people? You are most welcome. So, what will be your advice for those people out there want to make their artistic feature to be alive?
Well, I think you just, the first step is really finding what makes you spark, look inside and find out what your creative, what brings you joy, what brings you peace, what brings you calm. And usually those are the places. And so sometimes that's for writers writing a book or writing an essay. For an artist, it's about, going and finding the materials that they want to play with until they find their own language and their own vision. So creativity is a vast thing. So I think it's something that everyone is innately has a little part of creativity in them. I've heard many people say, I'm not creative, but my daughter is. And I'm like, no, not true. You might be creative in business, you might be creative in other things, but sometimes just, find your way with what works. So for certain people who want to have their artwork out there, I would suggest, create these ideas and create these narratives and, maybe make a book, maybe put it on Instagram, create something that's tangible for an audience to be able to come home and contemplate a little bit. So, and that's what painting and sculpture and multimedia do. It all makes us stop for a minute. So next time you're in a gallery or you go to a museum, support a local artist. Just go and spend some time with their work, post it on Instagram, spread the word to your friends.
Yes. Thank you for your advice, Miss Rachel. And let's talk about the reader experience of Odyssey. What do you hope readers will feel or discover when they explore Odyssey?
Well, I hope they'll find a narrative that's like a diary. I hope they see some insight to like my personal journey as well as the artist's personal journey. Maybe they'll learn something new about Billy and Diane's work that maybe they wouldn't have ever seen before. I think the book is highly visual. It's a photographic book, but also has this tangible quality. So I really hope that they'll walk away with some inspiration. I also wrote it in dialogue to other curators. I mean, there's a lot of great curators in the world, and take risk, think about that, your audience matters and what you want to say to an audience member when you're creating an exhibition or you're creating a book, for instance. This is kind of a capsule of what had happened, but I really want people to feel comfortable reading it. I want some intimacy with it so that people feel like they're seeing something that they might not otherwise know about. Artists often aren't able to tell their story. They don't get to tell their story because they're artists. They do it through their painting. So a curator's job is really to give the narrative, to tell the story. That's why there's great art historians and curators out there. And so you become the oracle for the artist in the sense of how the history will repeat and come back to them. So it's really important what words matter as well as visual information matters. So I think they both, in terms of books, they're really important. I think collectors, people who appreciate art, they can go back to a book, and it's a timeless idea. So
Is there a particular sketch or passage in the book that is especially meaningful to you?
yeah, there is. There's quite a few of them actually. But there is one. Let me find it for you. I'm sorry I'm a little slow in flipping through it, but I pretty much have this book memorized. So, in the dance between artist and curator, the canvas stretches beyond mere brushstrokes and exhibitions. It's a dialogue between vision and interpretation, where each layer reveals the power of perception.
Nice. Totally, totally amazing.
Thank you.
And you're most welcome. So, how does the book invite readers to reflect on their own personal odysseys or travels?
While it asks questions, it has a series of quotes. It looks into the immersive process. So it talks about, there's days where I talk about the diary of what happened that day. So I would hope that the way the book's constructed will allow people also to write their own notes into the book, to think about these and ponder on some of these questions, because some of the quotes are questions. So it makes you think about, what is your reflection on this? What is the power of a curator and what is the power of an artist? And so, I put one that's in here. This is a beautiful painting of Billy. As you can see, it's quite
Nice.
graphic, and it says, "Don't be afraid to let the pieces clash. Sometimes the tension between two works is where the real magic happens." So when you think about putting artwork together on a wall, or you're coming into this book and you think, well, that doesn't look like it goes here, and that doesn't look like it goes here. Well, maybe it's making you question something when you walk through an exhibition. We often in our world think everything should match or it should fit. And sometimes
Mhm.
the things that don't fit are the ones that provoke questions the most. So,
Totally
yeah.
agree with you, Miss Rachel. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to one of my audiobooks, people. Audiobooks. Because my book 101 review, volume 1, highly recommended, is on Audible. Book 101 review, volume 2, selected. And book 101 review, volume 3, suggestions. These are the product of my first season on Book 101 review and one of my self-help books, Thread of Existence, Weaving the Tapestry of Life. Stand tall, stand together, breaking the chains of bullying, and life is too short, a journey of discovery, fulfillment, and joy. And my climate change book, Earth Fever, Unraveling Climate, and our race to restore balance. Please do listen my one of my audiobooks. They are one of the bestsellers on Audible. So, Miss Rachel, are there any plans to expand Odyssey into a series of featuring other places or artistic collaborations?
I think there's always a future for it. I mean, we've talked about doing more things together. I think Odyssey is the component of the title and kind of the idea of return is really important to a lot of different artists. So I could see this move into to other books and to other exhibitions. And so I hope in the future, this isn't the last book. This is only the beginning of a book. And there's so much to give and so much to offer. And in my goals in life and my ideas in life is to really, give back and let the creative community have their voice. So I hope we continue.
Yes, this is only the beginning, people. Miss Rachel Vancelette, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and talents to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support Odyssey?
Thanks so much, Daniel. I appreciate you.
No worries. So where they can buy your book, Miss?
You can go to snapcollective.com and just Google search Odyssey or Billy Zane or Diane Detal, and you'll find the book. So it's print on demand, so you can buy the book and let us know. You know, shoot Snap Collective a message and say you found us here on Daniel's podcast, and hopefully they can help you out with some fun things.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Rachel Vancelette because if you support her, more and more and more empowering arts to come. So, Miss Rachel, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been really fun talking to you today. Thanks so much for supporting Odyssey and the artists, and we really appreciate it.
Yes, people, and more to come, people. See you soon.
All right. Have a good one.
So, Miss Rachel, once you publish your second book, you are most welcome to come back and let's talk